The great hall of the empire was filled with light. Thousands of crystal lamps hung from the ceiling like frozen stars. The floor was made of black stone that reflected everything like dark water. And on the highest throne sat Queen, ruler of 12 worlds and commander of the largest fleet in the known galaxy. She was tall even for her skin was pale blue and her eyes were like liquid silver. Two small horns curved back from her forehead, marking her royal blood. She was beautiful in the way that storms are beautiful, powerful, and dangerous. Today was her wedding day. Look down at the small figure walking toward her throne. He was human. His name was Park Ho, and he was the most ordinary man she had ever seen. He was not tall, he was not muscular. He wore simple clothes, a white shirt and dark pants that the humans had provided for the ceremony. His black hair was neatly combed, and his face was calm and gentle. He walked with his head slightly bowed, like a servant approaching a master. The nobles of the empire watched him with disgust and amusement. Some laughed quietly behind their hands. Others shook their heads in disappointment. "This is the human the queen has chosen," whispered Lord to the woman beside him. "He looks like he would break if I touched him." "Perhaps that is the point," the woman replied. "A weak husband is easy to control." She heard everything, and they were not wrong. The war between the Empire and the Human Alliance had lasted for 15 years. Millions had died on both sides. The humans were weak individually, small, soft, and short-lived. But there were so many of them, and they fought with a desperation that they had never seen before. They did not surrender. They did not retreat. They simply kept coming, wave after wave, until both sides were exhausted. The peace treaty required a symbol of unity. A marriage between the two species, had received a list of human volunteers willing to marry her for the sake of peace. She had chosen Park Ho. His file said he was 34 years old. He worked as a cook on a cargo ship called the Morning Star. He had no military record, no political connections, no family of importance. He had volunteered because, according to his application, he wanted to help people stop dying. He was nobody. And that was exactly what wanted. She needed a husband who would not challenge her power, someone who would stand beside her at ceremonies and stay quiet, someone who would give her human allies without giving her human problems. Park Ho reached the bottom of the stairs that led to her throne. He stopped and bowed deeply, not the quick nod that humans usually gave, but a full bow, his body bent at the waist, his eyes on the ground. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice was soft and calm. "Thank you for choosing me. I will do my best to be worthy of this honor." Studied him. He did not look at her with fear, which surprised her. Most humans trembled in the presence of royalty. But he also did not look at her with desire or ambition. He simply looked peaceful. "Rise," she commanded. He straightened up, and for the first time their eyes met. His eyes were dark brown, almost black. There was something in them that could not read, something deep and still like water in a well. Then he smiled, a small, gentle smile, and the strange feeling passed. He is just a simple man, told herself, nothing more. The ceremony was long and filled with ancient traditions. Ho followed every instruction perfectly. He spoke the vows in the language which he had obviously practiced. His pronunciation was not perfect, but he tried hard and found herself almost charmed by his effort. When the high priest bound their hands together with the sacred ribbon, Ho's fingers were warm against her cool skin. He did not flinch at her touch, though most humans found skin uncomfortably cold. "You are now joined," the high priest announced. "Two souls, two worlds, one purpose." The great hall erupted in formal applause. Looked out at the crowd of nobles, diplomats, and military officers. She saw respect on some faces, doubt on others, and open contempt on a few. Her younger sister stood near the front. She was shorter than, with darker blue skin and sharper features. She did not applaud. She simply stared at Ho with cold hatred in her silver eyes. had argued against this marriage from the beginning. "You are making yourself look weak," she had said. "A queen married to a human cook. The other houses will see this as an invitation to challenge you." Had dismissed her concerns, was always worried about appearances, about power, about threats that might never come. She was ambitious and impatient, dangerous qualities in a royal sibling. The feast that followed the ceremony was magnificent. Hundreds of dishes from both and human cuisine filled the tables. Ho sat beside on a smaller throne, eating quietly and speaking only when spoken to. Several nobles approached him during the feast, asking questions that were really insults in disguise. "Tell me, human," said Lord, a fat man with 3 chins, "what skills do you bring to this marriage? Surely you must offer something of value." Ho smiled politely. "I can cook, my lord. I make very good soup." The nobles around them laughed. Lord's face twisted with contempt. "Soup," he repeated. "The queen's husband makes soup. How wonderful." "It is wonderful," Ho agreed, his smile never changing. "Good food brings people together. It makes them happy. I think happiness is valuable, don't you?" Lord had no answer for that. He walked away, muttering about human stupidity. Watched the exchange with interest. She had expected Ho to be embarrassed or angry. Instead, he seemed completely unbothered. He simply returned to his meal, eating with small, precise movements. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the great hall was empty, walked with her new husband through the palace corridors. Guards followed at a respectful distance. "You handled Lord well," she said. Ho shrugged slightly. "He wanted to make me feel small, but I already know I am small. His words cannot hurt me." Looked at him curiously. "You are strange for a human." "Perhaps," he agreed, "but I hope that is not a bad thing." They reached the royal chambers, a vast suite of rooms that would now be their shared home. Ho looked around at the luxury with wide eyes, like a child seeing the ocean for the first time. "It is very beautiful," he said softly. "You will get used to it," replied. He turned to her, and again she saw that strange stillness in his eyes. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for giving me this chance. I know I am not what you expected or wanted, but I promise I will never cause you trouble." Almost laughed. Trouble, this gentle, quiet little man. "I believe you," she said. She had no idea how wrong she was. 3 months passed in the royal palace, and Park Ho became invisible. He woke early every morning before the first sun rose over the mountains. He exercised alone in a small courtyard behind the royal chambers, simple movements, stretching and breathing, nothing that looked impressive. Then he bathed, dressed in plain clothes, and went to the kitchen. The royal cooks had been horrified when the queen's husband first appeared in their domain. They had tried to chase him away, to serve him instead. But Ho had simply smiled and asked if he could help. After a few days, they accepted him. After a few weeks, they loved him. He was an excellent cook. His hands moved with surprising speed and precision when he worked. He knew flavors that they had never tasted, and he learned their recipes quickly. The head cook, a large woman named Bora, said he had a gift. "Your husband has magic in his fingers," she told the queen one afternoon. "The food he makes, it tastes like home. I do not know how else to describe it." Had noticed, the meals that arrived at her private table were different now. Better. There was something warm about them, something that made her feel safe and comfortable. She had not felt that way since she was a child. She found herself looking forward to dinner. When Ho was not in the kitchen, he was in the garden. There was a small space behind the eastern tower that had been empty for years. He had asked permission to use it, and had agreed without much thought. Now it was filled with life. Earth plants grew beside flowers. Vegetables and herbs pushed up through the dark soil. Ho spent hours there, on his knees in the dirt, his hands covered in mud, talking softly to his plants as if they were old friends. Watched him sometimes from her window. She did not know why. He is so simple, she thought, so content with small things. How can anyone be satisfied with gardens and cooking? But there was something peaceful about watching him, something that calmed the storm that always raged inside her mind. The pressures of ruling, the threats from rival houses, the weight of 1,000 decisions, all of it seemed lighter when she saw him smiling at a new flower. She began to visit him in the garden, just for a few minutes at first, then longer. "What is this one?" she asked one day, pointing at a tall plant with purple leaves. "Basil," Ho replied. "On Earth we use it for cooking. The smell is very strong. Here, try." He broke off a small leaf and held it up to her face. The scent was sharp and sweet at the same time, found herself closing her eyes to focus on it. "It is pleasant," she admitted. Ho's smile widened. "I am glad you like it. I will put some in your dinner tonight." He kept his promise. The meal that evening had a new flavor, something green and fresh that made his heart feel light. She ate more than usual. The palace staff noticed the changes in their queen. She seemed less tense. She smiled more often. She no longer threw things when she was angry. She simply took a deep breath and asked for tea. "The human is good for her," the servants whispered among themselves. "He softens her sharp edges." But not everyone was pleased. Came to visit her sister one evening, her silver eyes cold and calculating. She found reading reports at her desk while Ho sat nearby, quietly mending a torn shirt. "You let him do servant work?" asked, her voice filled with contempt. "He enjoys it," replied without looking up. "It keeps his hands busy." "He is the queen's husband. He should act like it." "He acts like himself. I find it refreshing." Walked closer to Ho, looking down at him the way one might look at an insect. He continued sewing, his needle moving in small, precise stitches. "Tell me, human," said, "do you not feel ashamed, living off my sister's power while contributing nothing, being nothing?" Ho looked up at her calmly. "I am sorry you feel that way, princess, but I do not think being peaceful is the same as being nothing, and I contribute in my own small ways." "Cooking and gardening," laughed. "Truly the contributions of a great man." "I never claim to be great," Ho replied. "I only want to be useful." Turned to her sister. "This is what you married, this creature with no pride, no ambition, no fire. He makes you look weak. The other houses are laughing at you. They say the great queen has taken a pet instead of a partner." Finally looked up from her reports. Her eyes were hard. "Let them laugh. I did not marry for power. I married for peace." "You married a coward." The word hung in the air like poison. Saw Ho's hands pause for just a moment, so brief that she almost missed it. Then he continued sewing, his face unchanged. "I think you should leave," said to her sister. Smiled coldly. "Of course, I only came to warn you. Weakness attracts predators, sister, remember that." She left without another word. That night could not sleep. She walked through the palace corridors thinking about her sister's words. Was she weak for choosing Ho? Had she made a mistake? She found him in the kitchen, alone, making tea. The room was dark except for a single lamp. "You should be sleeping," she said. He looked up, unsurprised by her presence. "So should you, your majesty." She sat down across from him at the small kitchen table. It was strange, the queen of 12 worlds, sitting in a servant's kitchen in the middle of the night. "My sister called you a coward," said. "Does that not bother you?" Ho poured 2 cups of tea. "Words only have power if we give them power. Your sister sees my quietness as weakness. Perhaps she is right, or perhaps she simply does not understand that there are different kinds of strength." "What kinds?" He slid a cup toward her. "The strength to fight is easy to see. The strength to stay calm when others want you to fight. That is harder to recognize, but it is still strength." Wrapped her hands around the warm cup. "You speak like a philosopher." "I speak like a cook," he smiled. "We spend a lot of time waiting for things to finish. It gives us time to think." She laughed, a real laugh, something she had not done in years. Ho's smile grew warmer. They sat in comfortable silence, drinking tea together, and for the first time realized that she did not want to be anywhere else. Later, as she returned to her chambers, she thought about the strange human she had married. He was not what she expected. He was not what anyone expected, but there was something about him that made her feel safe. She stopped in the corridor. A memory came to her, something small that she had dismissed at the time. The way he moved through doorways, always checking the corners. The way his eyes tracked the guards' patrol patterns. The way his hands, the hands that could sew and cook and plant flowers, never trembled, not even once. Small things, meaningless things. Probably. Shook her head and continued to her room. She was just imagining things. Lord arrived on a ship made of black metal and bad intentions. He was the ruler of the Dominion, a rival power that had watched the Empire with hungry eyes for centuries. The war with humans had weakened forces, and everyone knew it. Had come to discuss trade agreements, but everyone in the palace understood the truth. He was here to measure his enemy. He was massive, even by standards. His skin was dark gray and his horns were thick and from many battles. When he smiled, his teeth looked like knives. "Queen," he boomed as he entered the throne room. "It has been too long. You grow more beautiful with each passing year." "And you grow more bold," replied from her throne, "coming to my world with a fleet of warships hidden behind your transport vessel." Laughed, "Hidden, they are merely escorts. The space between our territories is dangerous, you know, pirates and rebels everywhere." "Of course." Ho stood beside the throne in his usual position, slightly behind, dressed in simple clothes, his hands folded in front of him. He looked like what he was supposed to be, decoration, a symbol of the human treaty and nothing more. His eyes found him, and the massive lord's smile turned cruel. "Ah yes, the famous human husband." He walked closer, ignoring all protocol until he was standing directly in front of Ho. "I have heard stories. They say the great queen chose a cook, a servant. I had to see it for myself." Ho bowed his head politely. "Lord, welcome to our home." "Your home?" Laughed. "You live in a cage, little human. A golden cage, but a cage nonetheless. Tell me, does she feed you well, give you a soft bed, let you out to exercise?" Several of guards laughed. The nobles in the room shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. No one wanted to challenge the lord. Ho simply smiled. "The queen is very kind to me. I am grateful for her generosity." "Grateful?" Leaned closer, his breath hot on Ho's face. "Like a pet is grateful, like a dog is grateful. Do you wag your tail when she comes home, little human?" The room went silent. The insult was extreme, even by standards. Hands tightened on her throne's armrests. "That is enough," she said, her voice cold as ice. "I am simply curious," replied, not moving. "I want to understand what kind of queen marries a creature like this. A creature with no strength, no pride, no—" "I apologize if I have disappointed you, Lord," Ho interrupted gently. "I know I am not impressive. I am just a simple man who was lucky enough to be chosen. Perhaps we can discuss more interesting topics at dinner." He was still smiling, still calm, still perfectly, impossibly polite. But saw something, just for a moment, less than a heartbeat. Something changed in Ho's eyes. The warmth disappeared. The gentleness vanished. What remained was cold, empty, like looking into a hole that had no bottom. Then it was gone, and he was simply Ho again. Felt a chill run down her spine. The banquet that evening was tense. Sat at the place of honor, drinking heavily and telling stories about his conquests. He spoke of worlds he had conquered, enemies he had crushed, populations he had enslaved. He made it clear, without saying directly, that he could do the same to the— Ho sat near the end of the table, eating quietly. He had chosen a seat far from near the servant's entrance, but was not finished with him. "Wine?" the Lord bellowed, raising his empty cup. "More wine for the Queen's husband. Let us see if humans can hold their drink." A servant rushed forward with a pitcher, but reached out and took it himself, standing up from his chair. "Allow me," he said with a cruel smile. He walked to Ho's seat. The room watched in silence, wanted to stop him, but doing so would show weakness, exactly what wanted. Raised the pitcher over Ho's head. "Oops," he said, and poured the entire contents onto the human. Red wine splashed over Ho's hair, his face, his clothes. It soaked through everything, dripping onto the floor. The room gasped. Some of his people laughed openly. Ho sat perfectly still. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, he reached up and wiped the wine from his eyes. He looked at his stained hands, then at. And he smiled. "Thank you for the wine, Lord, though I think it would taste better in a glass." A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. Smile faded. "You do not fight back," the Lord said. "You do not even get angry. What is wrong with you, human? Have you no pride at all?" "Pride is expensive," Ho replied, standing up. Wine dripped from his clothes onto the floor. "And I am just a poor cook. If you will excuse me, I should clean myself. Please enjoy the rest of your meal." He bowed to, then walked out of the banquet hall with steady, unhurried steps. His spine was straight. His pace was calm. He did not look back. Watched him go, her heart pounding with an emotion she could not name. Later that night, one of his personal guards was found unconscious in a corridor near the guest quarters. His jaw was broken in 3 places. His arm was twisted at an unnatural angle. He could not remember what had happened, only that he had been walking alone, and then darkness. The palace security reviewed their recordings. They showed nothing unusual. No one had entered the corridor. Except there was a gap, 30 seconds of footage that simply did not exist. When questioned, Ho was in the kitchen, making tea for the Queen. The kitchen staff confirmed he had been there all evening after leaving the banquet. He had not left their sight. "A strange coincidence," said when he heard the news. His voice was calm, but there was something different in his eyes now, something that looked almost like fear. "Indeed," agreed. "The palace can be dangerous at night. Your guard should have been more careful." She looked at Ho, who stood nearby with a tray of tea. He met her gaze with his usual gentle expression. "Would you like some tea, Lord?" he asked. "It helps with stress." Left the next morning, 2 days earlier than planned. He made excuses about urgent business in his territory. He did not look at Ho as he departed. After his ship disappeared into the sky, found her husband in his garden, planting new seeds. "Ho!" He looked up with a smile. "Yes, Your Majesty." "The guard, the one who was hurt." "A terrible thing," Ho said, shaking his head sadly. "I hope he recovers." The security footage had a gap. Technology can be unreliable. Knelt beside him in the dirt, something a queen should never do. She looked into his eyes, searching for the cold emptiness she had seen before. But there was only warmth, only kindness, only the simple cook who loved his garden. "Who are you?" she whispered. Ho's smile did not change. "I am your husband, Your Majesty, nothing more, nothing less." He returned to his planting, humming a soft tune. Stood up and walked away, her mind racing. She had seen something in him, she was sure of it. A crack in his mask, a glimpse of something hidden underneath. But what? What was Park Ho hiding? And for the first time since their marriage, realized that she was afraid of the answer. Made her move on the night of the winter festival. The palace was celebrating the longest night of the year. Music filled the halls. Servants carried trays of food and wine. Guards drank and laughed, their attention softened by the festive atmosphere. It was the perfect time for betrayal. Had gone to bed early, tired from the day's ceremonies. Ho had stayed with her, reading quietly by lamplight while she slept. The royal chambers were peaceful and warm. Then the lights went out. Every lamp in the room died at once. The emergency alarm stayed silent. The door that connected to the guard station remained locked from the outside. Ho looked up from his book. In the darkness he heard footsteps, 3 sets, heavy armored professional. The assassins came through the window, their black armor absorbing what little light remained. They were elite soldiers, warriors trained from birth to kill. Each one was nearly 8 feet tall and built like a weapon. One of them raised a blade that glowed with deadly energy. "The queen dies first," he said, "then the human." Woke to find a shadow standing over her bed. Instinct took over. She rolled to the side just as the blade came down, cutting through her pillow and mattress. She felt fire across her arm as the weapon grazed her skin. She screamed. Ho was already moving. He crossed the room in silence, his feet making no sound on the stone floor. The first assassin did not see him coming. He was too focused on the queen, raising his blade for a second strike. Ho reached him in 3 steps. His hands found the assassin's helmet. One sharp twist. The warrior's neck snapped like a dry branch. The massive body collapsed without a sound. The second assassin turned, shocked. "What?" Ho pulled the fallen warrior's blade from his hands. He threw it. The weapon spun through the air and buried itself in the second assassin's chest, punching through his armor like paper. 2 down, 4 seconds. The third assassin was faster. He swung his weapon at Ho's head, a blow that could have cut through steel. But Ho was not there anymore. He had moved, ducked under the swing with impossible speed, and now he was behind the warrior. His elbow hit the back of the assassin's knee. The warrior stumbled. Ho grabbed both of his arms and pulled them backward until the joints broke with wet, grinding sounds. The assassin screamed. Ho silenced him by driving his head into the stone wall. The impact cracked the wall itself. The body slumped to the floor. 3 warriors, 11 seconds, 1 cook. Pressed herself against the headboard of her bed, clutching her bleeding arm, staring at her husband with wide eyes. Ho stood in the center of the room, surrounded by bodies. His breathing was calm. His hands were steady. Blood dripped from his fingers, but it was not his own. He looked at her and she saw that his eyes had changed. The warmth was gone. The kindness had disappeared. What remained was something ancient and terrifying, a predator examining its territory. "Are you hurt?" he asked. His voice was the same as always, soft, gentle. Could not answer. Her body was shaking. Ho walked toward her slowly, his movements smooth and controlled. He knelt beside the bed and examined her wound with careful fingers. "The cut is not deep," he said, "but we need to stop the bleeding." He tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped it around her arm, tying it tight. His hands were warm and steady. Ho whispered, What are you?" Before he could answer, the door exploded inward. More soldiers poured into the room, not 3 this time, but 12. Behind them stood, her silver eyes burning with fury. "You were supposed to die quietly," she hissed at her sister, "but your pet has complicated things." His heart shattered. "Why?" "Because you are weak," spat. "Because you married a human and made us all look like fools. Because the Dominion promised me the throne if I removed you. Because I am tired of waiting in your shadow." She pointed at Ho. "Kill him, then finish the queen." The 12 soldiers advanced. Ho stood up slowly. He looked at the warriors surrounding him, then at. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "please close your eyes." "What?" "Close your eyes. I do not want you to see this." Did not close her eyes. She could not look away. What happened next was not a battle. It was a demonstration of exactly how dangerous a human could be. Ho moved through the soldiers like water through rocks. He was everywhere and nowhere at once. His hands found weak points in their armor, gaps in their defenses. He used their own weapons against them, turning their strength into weakness. The first 2 died before they understood they were under attack. The third and fourth managed to swing their weapons, but Ho was already past them, his fingers finding pressure points that made their bodies stop working. The fifth soldier was the largest, a giant even among. He swung a massive axe at Ho's head. The human caught the weapon's handle, redirected its momentum, and sent it back into its owner's skull. 6, 7, 8 fell in quick succession, necks broken, joints destroyed, weapons stolen and turned into instruments of death. 9 and 10 tried to run. They did not make it to the door. 11 held up his hands in surrender. Ho broke both of his legs anyway. He could not leave threats behind him. 12 was the last. The soldier charged at Ho with a desperate scream, swinging wildly. Ho the attack grabbed the warrior's arm and twisted. The soldier flipped through the air and crashed through the bedroom wall, his body creating a hole in the ancient stone. Silence. 15 seconds, 12 soldiers, 1 human. Stood alone in the doorway, her face pale with terror. She looked at the bodies scattered around the room, at the blood painting the walls, at the small human who had destroyed her entire assassination squad without receiving a single scratch. What are you?" she whispered, the same question her sister had asked. Ho walked toward her slowly. His eyes were still cold, still empty. "I am Park Ho," he said. "I am a cook. I am your sister's husband." He reached out and grabbed her collar, lifting her off the ground with one hand, strength that should have been impossible for his small body. "And I am very disappointed in you, princess." He threw her across the room. She hit the far wall and slid to the floor, coughing blood. Then Ho turned back too. The coldness faded from his eyes. The warmth returned. He was her gentle husband again, standing in a room full of corpses. "I am sorry you had to see that," he said softly. "I tried so hard to be invisible, to be no one, but some things cannot be hidden forever." Stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "Who are you?" she asked for the third time. This time he answered. "I am a ghost," he said, "a weapon that wanted to become a man, and for a while, standing beside you, I thought I had succeeded." He knelt before her, his head bowed. "I understand if you want me to leave. I understand if you are afraid of me. I will accept whatever you decide." The palace alarms finally began to sound. Guards shouted in the distance. Help was coming. But in that moment, there was only the monster who had saved her life. She reached out with a trembling hand and touched his cheek. "Stay," she whispered. "Stay and tell me the truth." Ho looked up at her with eyes full of pain and hope. "Everything," he promised. "I will tell you everything." The medical team wrapped wound while guards secured what remained of the royal chambers, had been taken away in chains, screaming curses at her sister. The bodies of the assassins were being removed. Through it all, Ho sat in the corner of the room, waiting. The palace advisors wanted to question him immediately. The military commanders demanded to know how a simple cook had killed 15 elite warriors in less than 30 seconds. Rumors were already spreading through the palace like fire. But sent them all away. She wanted to hear the truth from her husband first, alone. When the room was finally empty, she sat down across from him. Her arm ached. Her heart ached worse. "Talk," she said. Ho nodded slowly. "On Earth, there is a special division within the military. It has no official name, no official records. The soldiers who serve in it do not exist, not in any database, any government file, any historical document. They call themselves the Veil." He paused, gathering his thoughts. The Veil was created 200 years ago, when humans first discovered that other species existed in the galaxy. Our leaders realized that we were weak compared to other civilizations. Our bodies were fragile. Our technology was primitive. If we fought traditional wars against aliens, we would lose. "So you created assassins," said. "We created ghosts. The Veil was trained to be invisible, to strike without being seen, to destroy enemies before they knew they were in danger. We learned to turn our weakness into strength, small bodies that could hide anywhere, soft flesh that could move in silence, short lives that made us fearless. He looked down at his hands. I joined the Veil when I was 16 years old. I trained for 6 years before my first mission, and for the next 12 years I did things, terrible things. How many? Asked quietly. How many have you killed? 243 confirmed, perhaps more. The Veil did not always count. The number hung in the air between them, felt sick. I was good at it, Ho continued. The best in my generation. They called me the cook because I always prepared my targets carefully, studied them, learned their habits, found their weaknesses. And when I was ready, I served them death. He laughed bitterly. I thought it was clever, now I think it was just sad. What happened? Asked. Why did you stop? Ho's face grew dark. There was a mission, 4 years ago. We were sent to eliminate a warlord on a planet called Vox 7. He was a monster, a man who tortured innocents for pleasure. Killing him would have been justice. He closed his eyes. But the intelligence was wrong. The building we attacked was not his base. It was a hospital filled with children. His breath caught. I did not pull the trigger, Ho said. When I saw what the building really was, I refused to continue. I tried to stop my team, but it was too late. The charges had already been set. The explosion. His voice broke. For a moment, he was not a legendary assassin or a humble cook. He was just a broken man carrying a weight too heavy for his soul. 17 children died that night, because of a mistake, because of a lie, and I could not save them. He looked at with wet eyes. After that, I could not continue. I could not be the cook anymore, so I disappeared. I used every skill I had learned to erase myself from existence. Park Ho the assassin died. Park Ho the cargo ship cook was born. But why the marriage? Demanded. Why volunteer to come here? Because I wanted to disappear completely. A human husband to an alien queen on a distant world. No one from Earth would ever think to look for me here. I could finally stop running. Stop hiding. Stop being afraid that my past would catch up with me. He reached out toward her, then stopped himself. I never meant to deceive you. When you asked if I was dangerous, I said I was a cook. That was not entirely a lie. I did work as a cook. I just did not mention the other things. The other things, repeated. Killing 200 people is other things to you. 243. And yes, because that is not who I want to be. The Veil made me into a weapon, but weapons do not choose their targets. Weapons do not feel guilt or regret. I wanted to be more than a weapon. I wanted to be a man who plants gardens and makes soup and sits quietly beside his wife. He finally met her eyes. I wanted to be worthy of you. Stood up and walked to the window. The first sun was rising over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Below, the palace garden stretched out like a green carpet, including the small plot that Ho had cultivated with such care. You should have told me, she said. Would you have married me if you knew? She did not answer. She did not know the answer. I will leave if you want, Ho said. I can disappear. I have done it before. You can tell everyone that I died in the attack or that you sent me away. No one will question it. Turn to face him, and go where? Back to Earth, back to the Veil. No, never. I would find somewhere quiet, somewhere far from everything. I would grow my garden and cook my food and live alone until I die. It would not be a bad life, just a lonely one. He smiled sadly. But it would be better than staying here and making you uncomfortable, better than reminding you every day that you married a monster. Walked toward him slowly. Ho remained seated, his head bowed, accepting whatever judgment she would deliver. She knelt in front of him, the queen kneeling before the man she had once considered a pet. Look at me, she commanded. He raised his eyes. You are not a monster, she said. Monsters do not feel guilt. Monsters do not try to become better. Monsters do not kneel in the dirt planting flowers or spend hours making the perfect bowl of soup. She took his hands, the hands that had killed so many, the hands that had saved her life. You did terrible things, things I cannot imagine, and you will carry that weight forever, but you chose to stop. You chose to change. You chose to become someone different. Her voice softened. That choice, that is what makes you human. Ho's composure finally broke. Tears rolled down his cheeks, silent and heavy. I am so tired, he whispered. So tired of being afraid, so tired of running, so tired of pretending to be something I am not. Pulled him into an embrace. It was strange, the tall, powerful queen holding the small, broken human, but it felt right. Then stop pretending, she said. Stop running, stay here with me, not as a symbol or a treaty or a convenient husband. Stay as Park Ho, all of him, the cook and the killer, the gardener and the ghost. You would accept both, he asked, his voice muffled against her shoulder. I would accept you, she replied, exactly as you are. They held each other as the sun rose higher, painting the room in warm light. Outside, the palace was in chaos. His betrayal had exposed a conspiracy that reached deep into the nobility. The Dominion's involvement meant that war was almost certain. But in that moment, none of it mattered. The queen had found her husband, the ghost had found his home. And both of them had found something they never expected to discover. Hope, the fleet arrived 3 weeks later. 100 warships darkened the sky above their weapons were armed, their soldiers ready. Lord himself commanded from the largest vessel, a massive dreadnought called the Iron Fist. His message was simple, surrender or burn. Your sister confessed everything. His voice boomed through every communication channel on the planet. She told us about your military positions, your defense codes, your supply lines. The empire is finished, Queen. Accept your defeat with dignity, or I will crush your world beneath my heel. Stood in the war room surrounded by her generals. Their faces were grim. The numbers were clear. The defense fleet was outnumbered 3-1. Their ground forces were depleted from the human war. They could fight, but they could not win. We should negotiate, said General Sora, an old warrior with scars covering half his face. Perhaps we'll accept tribute instead of conquest. Does not want tribute, replied. He wants my throne, he wants our worlds, he wants everything we are. Then we fight, said Admiral, a younger officer with fire in her eyes. We fight and die with honor. There may be another way. Everyone turned. Ho stood at the back of the room, his hands folded behind him. Since the assassination attempt, he had been allowed into military briefings. The palace could hardly pretend he was just a cook anymore. What way? General Sora asked suspiciously. Ho walked to the main display which showed the enemy fleet in orbit. Strength is his numbers. His warships are powerful but slow. His soldiers are well-trained but not adaptable. He expects a traditional battle, fleet against fleet, army against army. That is how wars are fought, the general said. That is how wars are lost. Ho pointed at the dreadnought at the center of the enemy formation. Commands from there. Remove him and the Dominion's chain of command collapses. Their fleet will scatter. Their invasion will fail. Admiral frowned. We have considered assassination. But that ship is the most heavily defended object in their entire fleet. It would take an army to breach it. No, Ho said quietly, it would take 12. The room fell silent. Your Majesty, Ho turned to, I need a secure communication channel to Earth, one that cannot be traced or intercepted, and I need 30 minutes. Studied his face. She had learned to recognize his expressions now, the calm mask that hid the warrior underneath. But this time she saw something else. Fear, not for himself but for what he was about to unleash. Do it, she commanded. The communication was established in a private chamber. Ho sat alone before the screen, waiting. When the connection opened, a face appeared, a woman with short gray hair and eyes like ice. "Ghost 6, she said. "I wondered when you would call." "Commander Han," Ho replied, "it has been a long time. 4 years, we thought you were dead." "I was, now I need to come back." The woman's expression did not change. The veil does not work on personal requests, you know this. This is not personal. The Dominion is invading Prime. If they succeed, they will control one of the largest empires in this sector, and then they will turn their eyes toward human space. He leaned forward. "This is not about saving my wife. This is about stopping a threat before it becomes unstoppable." Commander Han was silent for a long moment. "What do you need?" "Unit 7, all of them." "Unit 7 disbanded after you left. They scattered across the galaxy." "I know where they are. Send them my coordinates. Tell them that Ghost 6 is calling in his debts." Another pause, "And if they refuse?" Ho smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "They will not refuse. They owe me their lives, every single one of them." The connection ended, entered the room a moment later. "Well," she asked. "They are coming," Ho said. "My old unit, 12 of the most dangerous humans ever born. They will be here in 16 hours. 12 soldiers against 100 warships." Ho stood and took her hands. 12 soldiers is all we need." They arrived without warning. No ships appeared on the sensors. No alarms were triggered. One moment the palace landing bay was empty. The next, a small black vessel sat in its center, silent as a shadow. The door opened, and 11 figures emerged. They were all human, small compared to, wearing simple black armor that seemed to absorb light. Their faces were calm, expressionless. They moved together like a single organism, perfectly synchronized. Ho stood waiting for them. When the first figure reached him, she pulled off her helmet. She was young, perhaps 25, with a scar running from her eyebrow to her chin. "Ghost 6, she said, "you look soft. Marriage agrees with you." "Ghost 2, Ho replied. "You look tired. Retirement does not agree with you." She smiled, a rare expression for any member of the Veil. "We are all tired, but when you call, we answer. That is the rule." One by one, the others gathered around him. There were no names spoken, only numbers. Ghost 3, Ghost 4, Ghost 5, all the way to Ghost 12. Each one nodded at Ho with respect and something that might have been affection. 11, Ho counted. "Where is Ghost 1? "Dead," Ghost 2 replied. 2 years ago, hunting pirates in the Outer Rim. She took 43 of them with her." Ho closed his eyes for a moment. "Then we are 12 again, fitting." He turned to face his team, his family, in a way that civilians could never understand. They had trained together, fought together, killed together. They had saved each other's lives more times than they could count. "You know why I called you. The Dreadnought Lord himself, we go in tonight." "Infiltration parameters?" Ghost 3 asked, a thin man with eyes that never stopped moving. "Extreme. We enter through the waste systems, move through maintenance tunnels, reach the command deck. We eliminate and his senior officers. Then we disappear." "Extraction?" "Same way we came in. They will launch a diversionary attack to draw attention away from the Dreadnought. By the time anyone realizes what happened, we will be gone." Ghost 2 nodded slowly. "It has been a long time since we worked together, 6. Are you still sharp?" Ho's expression changed. The gentle husband disappeared. The ghost emerged. "Let me show you," he said. The attack began at midnight. The fleet launched a desperate assault on the formation, drawing every eye to the battle in space. Explosions lit up the darkness as ships collided and weapons fired. No one noticed the tiny black vessel slipping through the chaos toward the Dreadnought. No one noticed the 12 shadows that entered through a waste disposal port. No one noticed the bodies that began to appear in maintenance corridors, guards with broken necks, officers silenced mid-scream. The veil moved through the massive ship like poison through blood. They were everywhere and nowhere. Every camera showed nothing. Every sensor remained silent. The only evidence of their passage was death. Lord was in his command chamber, watching the battle with satisfaction, when the lights went out. "What is this?" he demanded. "Restore power immediately." The lights came back on. 12 humans stood in a circle around him. His guards, all 20 of them, lay dead on the floor. Their bodies were still warm. Stared at the small figures, his gray face turning pale. "You," he whispered, recognizing the human from the palace. "The Queen's pet." Ho stepped forward. "I told you, Lord, I make very good soup, but I am also good at other things." He raised his hand, and the other ghosts raised their weapons. "This war is over." The dreadnought went silent. The invasion fleet, suddenly leaderless, fell into chaos. Some ships tried to retreat, others surrendered. The defense fleet, given unexpected help, tore into the confused enemy formation. By dawn, the war was over. The Dominion had lost their lord, their fleet, and their ambition. The galaxy would remember this night for centuries, the night that 12 humans destroyed an empire. The veil departed as quietly as they had arrived. Ghost 2 was the last to leave. "You found something good here, 6, she said, looking at the palace around them. "Hold on to it." "I intend to," Ho replied. She smiled that rare smile again. "If you ever need us again." "I know, thank you." She nodded, put on her helmet, and vanished into the shadows. Ho stood alone in the landing bay, watching the black vessel disappear into the sky. The ghost had done his work. Now the cook could return to his kitchen. The weeks after the war were filled with noise. Diplomats from 100 worlds came to Prime, eager to establish relations with the empire that had humiliated the Dominion. Trade agreements were signed. Treaties were negotiated. Though once seen as weakened by their marriage to humanity, were now feared and respected. But it was not Queen who filled the galaxy's imagination. It was her husband. Stories spread across the stars like wildfire. The humble cook who killed an army, the human pet who destroyed a fleet, the ghost of Prime. Each telling made the legend larger, the numbers higher, the feats more impossible. Some stories said he had killed 1,000 soldiers by himself. Others claimed he could disappear into thin air, pass through walls, read minds. A few even whispered that he was not human at all, that he was some kind of demon wearing human skin. Ho heard the stories. He hated every one of them. "They make me sound like a god," he told one evening, "or a monster. I do not know which is worse." "You saved our world," she replied. "People need heroes." "I am not a hero. I am just a man who did terrible things for a good reason." He stood up from his chair and walked to the window. The sunset painted the sky in shades of red and gold. Below, his garden was blooming, vegetables and flowers from a dozen worlds, growing together in harmony. "When I was young," he said quietly, "I believed that violence was simple. You hurt the bad people to protect the good people, clean, clear, righteous." He pressed his hand against the glass. "But the truth is more complicated. The people I killed had families, children, dreams. Some of them were innocent, victims of bad intelligence or political games. And now I carry their ghosts with me everywhere I go." Joined him at the window. "Do you regret what you did? The war, the assassination, saving my life?" "No, I would do it again. That is what makes it so difficult. I know that violence was necessary, but I also know that it left scars on my soul. Both things can be true at the same time." He turned to face her. "Does that make sense?" "Yes," she said softly, "more than you know." The galaxy slowly returned to normal, was exiled to a prison planet in the outer territories, could not execute her own sister, despite everything. The Dominion collapsed into civil war, its remaining lords fighting over the scraps of power. And Park Ho returned to his quiet life. He woke early, he exercised, he cooked breakfast for his wife. He spent hours in his garden on his knees in the dirt, talking to his plants like old friends. The palace staff watched him with different eyes now. They bowed deeper when he passed. They spoke to him with respect and fear. Some avoided him entirely, afraid of what lived behind his gentle smile. It hurt him more than any wound he had ever received. "They are scared of me," he told Bora, the head cook, one morning. "They look at me like I might kill them at any moment." Bora, a large woman who had never feared anything in her life, laughed loudly. "Give them time. They just watched you do impossible things. It will take a while for them to remember that you also make excellent soup." "What if they never remember? What if I am always the monster to them?" Bora took his hands in hers. "Then find the people who see the man instead. You cannot control how others see you. You can only control who you choose to be." She squeezed his fingers. "And I choose to see a good man who makes my kitchen better. Anyone who cannot see that is a fool." Ho smiled, a real smile, warm and grateful. "Thank you, Bora. Thank me by finishing those vegetables. The queen's dinner will not cook itself." Spring arrived on Prime. The gardens exploded with color. New flowers bloomed that no one had ever seen before, hybrids that Ho had created, combining earth plants with species. One morning found him in his garden, kneeling in the dirt, gently placing a small seedling into the soil. "What is that one?" she asked. "I do not know yet. It is something new, a combination of earth roses and moonflowers. I am not sure what it will become." He patted the soil around the tiny plant, his movements careful and tender. "That is the beautiful thing about gardens," he continued. "You plant seeds without knowing exactly what will grow. You give them water and sunlight and care, and then you wait. Sometimes you get weeds. Sometimes you get flowers. Sometimes you get something completely unexpected." He looked up at her with soft eyes. "Life is like that too. We plant seeds with our choices, but we cannot control what grows from them. We can only try our best and hope." Sat down beside him in the dirt. Her royal robes would be ruined. She did not care. "When I chose you," she said, "I thought I was planting a small, harmless seed, something easy to control, something that would never challenge me." She took his hand, the hand that had killed so many, that had saved her life, that now held flowers with such gentleness. "I was wrong. You are the most surprising thing that has ever grown in my garden." Ho laughed quietly. "I hope that is a good thing." "It is the best thing. You showed me that strength does not always look the same, that gentleness and danger can live in the same heart, that love can grow in unexpected places." She leaned against his shoulder. "I was afraid when I learned the truth about you, afraid of what you had done, what you could do, but now I understand. The darkness in your past does not define you. Your choices define you, and you have chosen to be kind, to be gentle, to be mine." Ho put his arm around her. "I spent so many years trying to become invisible, trying to disappear, but you see me, all of me, and you still want me to stay." "Always," whispered, "I will always want you to stay." They sat together in the garden as the morning sun grew warmer. Around them, flowers bloomed in colors that had no names. Insects hummed in the air. The smell of growing things filled the world. Ho said after a long silence, "What do you want our future to look like?" She thought about the question carefully. "I want peace, real peace, not just the absence of war. I want to build something lasting, an empire where different species can live together without fear." "That is a big dream." "I have a big empire," she smiled, "and I have a husband who can cook very good soup." He laughed, a free, happy sound that she had rarely heard from him before. "Then let us start small," he said. "Let us start with breakfast. I will make your favorite. The eggs with the green herbs, and fresh bread from the oven, and tea from the leaves I grew myself." He stood up, offering her his hand. She took it and let him pull her to her feet. The Queen of 12 Worlds, he said with a gentle smile, eating breakfast made by a cook. The galaxy would think it strange. The galaxy can think what it wants, replied. I know the truth. I married the most dangerous man in the universe, and he makes me feel safer than anyone ever has. They walked together toward the palace, leaving footprints in the soft garden soil. Behind them, the tiny seedling lifted its leaves toward the sun, beginning its long journey toward becoming something new. Something beautiful. Something unexpected. Just like love. Just like them.